So welcome to Get a Life Moment with myself, Lisa Davies, and today I am joined by a very inspiring chap that I met through a colleague's network and was very drawn to his work. This is Colin Smith, known as the listener. So, and I'm sure Colin's going to tell us more about that. But it was his, I want to say, his enigmatic energy of listening within that networking call that really drew me to him. So welcome, Colin.
Thank you, Lisa. Lovely to be here with you.
So for those people who have not come across your work as the listener, who is Colin Smith?
It's always a good question. And as I know you know, when I'm often asked that question, and particularly as it relates to the work I do, I ask a question back to the people who've asked me. And that question is, when was the last time you felt really heard? And for a lot of people, it's like, oh, gosh, that could be a while. And there's often a conversation that goes on a little bit about, so what's the difference between listening and hearing and all of that sort of thing. But how I arrived at being the listener I often describe it as my life is in three parts or three halves. So the first half was in computers, understanding how computers work and how they connected. The second half was about working in a consultancy, which was working with people. How do they work and how do they connect? And then 10 years ago, I set up my own company, and the idea was about connecting people who make a difference. And it's through this iterative process. I've done work with positive deviance. I've done work with what I call disruptive dialogue. And these are all things that led me to the position where over lunch with someone one day, it was like, well, what is it I do best? And they said, you listen. And we came up with the idea of the listening coach. But for me, that feels a little bit like fixing. So we said, let's make it the listener. And so I'm now known as the listener, as you rightly said. So who am I? I think I'm a mix of a lot of people, a lot of individuals, but in my essence, I'm just me. And I sit in that stillness and quietness so that I can actually be with people. So I come from a place of being with rather than doing to. And it's that sort of lovely stillness and flow that when you engage with people, that just makes all the difference. And it not only makes a difference to me and to them, but it makes a difference to that relationship. So that's a little bit.
Fascinating.
And if you were to look at some of the books on my shelf, you'd think, oh, so he's interested in football, he's interested in music, he's interested in the spiritual side of things, obviously listening, leadership, management. And some of the ones up here, there's a real eclectic mix there of things, but I'm curious with people. And I think that also helps.
It's really interesting because when we spoke on that initial call, and we've had a follow-up conversation since, the one phrase that stuck with me that you said is you said, listening is a superpower.
Yeah.
So talk to me about that. How do you see listening? Interesting. There's my language patterns as a visual oriented person. Talk to me about how you came to the conclusion that listening is a superpower.
I think for me, when it's something that you do, when you start to realize what your gift is, it doesn't seem to be a big deal. This is what I do. This is who I am. And the reason it came to me as a superpower wasn't that I found that. It was someone that I had spent time with. He and I connected over LinkedIn through one of the groups like we've done. And he and I would have an hour and a half, probably every 3 or 4 weeks. And we did this for about 3 or 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, and we still do it. And he's a very quiet, introvert individual, very good at what he does, a family man and all those sorts of things. And he said that the listening work that we've done together has transformed his life. And he's the one who said he saw it as a superpower. And it got me thinking, because he said, I can now go and talk to anyone. I'm not frightened of talking to anyone because I know how to listen. And if you can listen, 99% of people want to talk about themselves. Yeah. And they want to feel heard. You know, Oprah, she said, she was being interviewed one time, and she said to the guys interviewing, she said, what I've noticed over all the people she's interviewed, it doesn't matter whether it's presidents, people in prison, mothers, fathers, whatever. At the end of the call, end of the interview, they lean across and they say, was that okay? Did I do all right? So everyone wants to be valued, wants to be validated. And so she has an intention, and I think there's a heart of listening is about intention, to validate that person. That's how she arrives to be present with that person, that whatever it is that happens today, they are going to be validated and feel valued for what they say and who they are. You know, and as I'm saying that, I can just feel that.
Yes.
What it's like. Yeah.
You can actually embody it. I know in discussions we've had before that when I'm working with groups of leaders on our retreats, you know, I share my fundamental belief, and it is my fundamental belief. I haven't got it from anywhere else, that people want to be seen, heard, and loved, or appreciated, validated, whatever word you want to put to that. They want to be seen. They want to be heard, truly heard, and loved and appreciated, or as you know, eloquently put it, validated as, you know, you belong here on this planet, on this earth, in your space. There's only you that can be in your space. Everybody else's space is taken. Yeah. So how do you apply that in the world?
Sorry, isn't that interesting that what you said, that this is what our fundamental need is, and how many of us are receiving that? That's what hurts. That's what's missing, right? And I believe what you just said, right? Spot on. But I also believe that what we do to find it, because we're looking for it all the time, is where addictions come from.
Interesting. Yes.
Right?
Yes.
We try and fill this, I call it a hole, H-O-L-E, in our tummy that's missing this feeling of connection, this feeling of being loved and valued and seen, as you said, and heard. And I'll fill it with alcohol, I'll fill it with drugs, I'll fill it with sex, I'll fill it with work, but it's never enough. So I need more of it. To the detriment, I'll do anything to get that.
Yes.
And we'll do anything to get that attention, that love. And you look at abuse in families and that. And yet we've got rising mental health, and we've got rising loneliness and rising suicide. So what, in that little moment that we had, I think it speaks volumes for what's wrong, what's missing in the world. And if we could just teach the world, and I know you do this as well, teach the world to listen just a little better, things would change.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So how do you, which brings me on to beautifully, how do you apply that to your work? Because this is a vocation for you, so a calling, if you like. So how do you practically apply that to the work that you do, Colin?
So if I look at it in the sort of practical terms, there's three areas that I operate in. The first is, and I refer to it as surviving. People want to feel heard, so I listen to them. That's it. I listen fully to them. So the word from them is, I need to be heard. The second is, what I refer to as dive, is I need to think. So the quality of my attention, the questions I might ask, the insights that arise come as a result of the quality of my attention, my listening, helps the quality of your thinking.
Okay.
And then the third area I call thrive, which is about, I teach people how to listen. And I have to fight that first one is like, I've got 2 ears, hello, why do I need to listen? Because hearing is, we don't have to do anything, it's passive. Whereas listening, you have to intend to listen. And so a simple exercise I use is a piece of music, and I say, just listen to the music. And so they listen to the music. So, okay, this time, listen to the guitar and the piano. That's all I want you to do, just listen to that. They listen to that. The third time, I get them to listen to the vocals. And then the fourth time, I say, don't do anything, just be with the music and let it flow through you. And I have been accused many times of changing the music. It's the same. Seriously, one was a what do you call him, a tutor at a university. He said, hang on. He said, you've changed the music. No. And one of the lovely things, and you'll appreciate it, is somebody said, when I listened to the vocals, I could hear the sadness in his heart.
Wow.
It's like, wow, yeah, exactly. So that's, from a practical terms, that's the work I do. It's in three areas.
And what type of people do you work with? Is it individuals, organizations, teams?
Well, it is all of those. And I know this is such a glib answer that everyone, I believe, needs to know how to listen better. And so I'm working with individuals, I'm working with teams, I'm working in organizations. It's all of those. And it doesn't need to be a sector. If I was to say who would have the most impact and where would I like to spend more time, is actually with the leaders in organizations, because if they role model listening, what happens is it starts to become a bit of a safer place to be. If it's a safer place to be, then people start to open up, start to perform better, be more creative, stress level drops. People connect better with their families and loved ones because they're happier at work. And because of that, they become happier at work when they're in work. So there's that lovely upward spiral. When we're interested in other people and curious and listen to them, we ask people, what do you think? So how many CEOs walk in and say, we've got this real problem, I think we should do this and this. What do you think? Or those CEOs who walk in and say, we've got this problem, guys and girls, what do you think? I want to hear what you've got to say.
And it's not just saying it, it's actually intending to listen to the answers that's the key.
Yeah. And if I listen to the answers that people have given me, and one person happens to say what turns out to be let's say the right answer, the best answer, and it was the one I was going to arrive with, I can give them the credit and say, great, fantastic. That's what we're going to go ahead with. But also I think there's another piece in the listening is that when we enter that conversation, that dialogue, we've also got to be open to having our minds changed too. You know, so if I sat here with you and on the table in front of us was the number 6 from where I see it, but from your side, you can see a number 9. And I say, what do you see, Lisa? And you say a number 9. I go, well, I see a number 6. And you go, no, it's 9. I say, it's 6. And you say, Colin, I'm sorry, it's a 9. And I say, well, no, you must be stupid. It's a 6. Or I can say, Lisa, you're an intelligent lady. Why don't I come round your side? Why don't you help me understand why you see it as a 9? And I've got to be genuine in that. Because when I come round there and you say, look, this is the 9. And oh my goodness, it is a 9. And maybe then you say, can I come and see your side? Because I'm obviously not seeing the 6 and you see the 6. And then you go, or we go, so the 6 and the 9 is true.
Yes.
So what about all the gray then between the black and the white? Could we embrace all of those? And then we open it up even further.
This is a beautiful theme that seems to be coming out in my interviews at the moment, because I was speaking to a wonderful gentleman yesterday, Marcus Marku, who is an independent filmmaker, and he made a short film that was very much looking at that duality and how we change our view or our feeling about something as we discover more, as we go through his little 12-minute film. Nice. But we were talking about this, that in the world, on the world stage, in life at the moment, there is so much duality. We mentioned the whole stay, remain, take a jab, don't take a jab. We see it everywhere. We see it in the news. We see it in social media. People are talking around us, and there's this strong theme of duality that seems to be even more pronounced. It appears more, it's absolutely, you're in this camp or you're in this camp. And I see it a lot on social media that people are kind of keyboard warriors, but it's almost, and people doing videos, but it's almost like they're talking into an echo chamber, into a vacuum that just comes back to them. I wonder if people were able to really have the intention of listening to one another, what would happen?
Yeah, beautiful. I recall a conversation, it was a conversation I had with a lady in the US, and she was very prolific on social media. And this particular man had been quite rude to her on, I think it was Facebook at the time. And she deleted him and blocked him. And afterwards she thought, that really wasn't embodying what I believe, which is about being open and connected and vulnerable and those sorts of things. So she did something really quite unusual, I believe, is that she found him and wrote an email to him saying, I'm sorry, I blocked you and deleted you. I'd like to understand more about why you said what you said. And at first he thought this was a joke or a game, but she was deadly serious, and she is deadly serious. And so he said, yeah, I'd be happy to meet you. And that's exactly what they did. And they met, they had coffee, and he explained, she explained, they had a good chat. And in the end, he said, you know what? I'm sorry. I'm sorry for the way I went about doing what I did. And she said, I'm sorry that I deleted and blocked you. And, they're not going to be lifelong buddies, but they bridged that gap. They bridged that difference. And again, because she was willing and he was willing to open up about that. And in fact, there is a Heineken advert where probably about 2 years ago, I don't know if you remember it, where they solicited people with really strong opposing views. So one is pro-abortion, one is against it, one is this, one is that. And they had them brought together, unbeknown that they had these opposing views, to build some IKEA type furniture. And then they built it, and then they put it together, and it turned out to be a bar. So there was a bar and 2 stools, and then they were invited to go and get a drink from the bar part of it and put them in the spots. Then they looked at the videos of each of them. And so the question was, do you want to walk away, or do you want to have a chat about the differences over a drink? And they were able to have a drink, because these people had built a relationship while they were building these boxes, if you like. And it was like, you're a really good person, a real good, you could be a mate, we could hang out. That's the sort of banter that was going on.
Yeah. Until
they saw this, and then it looked at each other, and they were able to have deep and meaningful conversations about their differences and get through it.
Yeah, I mean, that's fascinating. I did write about it in my book, actually, about, I kind of made a phrase in the book that said, I don't mind if you disagree with me. Let's have a discussion about that. That's really healthy. We may still not feel the same at the end of it, but actually it's only, I can't see the world through your eyes. The only way I can see the world through your eyes is to understand you, and then I might learn and grow. So it is that sort of theme of, we often look for difference. We're kind of hardwired to spot differences rather than look for commonality and similarity, where we have connection rather than where we have disconnection.
Couldn't have put it better.
So it would be wonderful if everybody could learn to be more present. And hey, are we perfect? Are we always truly present and listening? Well, I'm sure you probably are, Colin, but
no.
For the rest of us mere mortals, perhaps not.
No. You ask my partner. I'm not always present. All right. She'll say things like, "You're not listening," or the worst is, "You call yourself a listener."
I think.
Okay.
If we could just improve just a little bit, I talk to leaders about, do you talk to your colleagues and your team members whilst you're still typing away on your computer?
Yes.
And they'll kind of say, yes, I do. Okay, so how validated and heard does that person feel? How does that make them feel? Imagine how that makes them feel. I wonder how much of that interaction, that communication, you are missing by not being fully present. It's quite a light bulb moment for many of them, but we're all guilty. I think we're a world that we have these weapons of mass distraction, don't we? And it gets in the way of our ability to use that superpower of listening.
Yeah. Just imagine that, you or I were about to give a presentation to, I don't know, let's say 1,000 people. And at the start of it, your phone, you make it as though you're, oh, sorry about this. The phone's just rung. Do you mind if I take, hello? We would never do it. And you say, why would you never do it? It's because it's rude. Right? Yeah. So we wouldn't do it in front of a presentation. So what makes it okay to do it in front of this? Or one-to-one with someone who's humanly present with me. And they do say that if you've got your phones out and on the desk or on the table in front of you, even if it's face down, it's like having a third chair next to you and me, where any of your friends or my friends can turn up and just sit there or even say, hello, I'm here now. Hello, Colin, how are you? Lisa. And so they've shown that the quality and the depth of the conversation is reduced just by having the phones there.
That's right. Quite a powerful thought, isn't it? That's quite a powerful visualization that there is somebody sat there in a chair waiting to chip in at any moment.
Yeah, and it just, as you said, it's a weapon of mass distraction.
Yes,
it distracts.
Absolutely.
And there was a story of a CEO who, every time she went into a meeting, these sort of moments in the corridor by the coffee machine, that whenever she had one of those, she made a point, she just sort of put a phone in a bag, and she didn't make a big deal of it. But what she noticed over the days and weeks that followed is that more and more people started doing it. So
behavior breeds behavior. Start a ripple. Start a ripple. So what's next for you, Colin? What's your aspiration?
So what's next for me is a book about listening. And the idea was, first of all, I'm going to become an author and I'm going to make a lot of money and all that sort of stuff. The reality is that most authors, unless you're a J.K. Rowling, are not going to make that. And so you go, well, it's a really lovely business card to have that, I can give out my books and sign them and they'll keep them and I'll be remembered for that, which is really all about me-centered. And then I thought, what do I really want? What's this really about? And it was about, how do I teach the world to listen? That's what this is really about. And then I thought, well, a book will be one way, but could I do it in a slightly different way? And the idea is that usually at the back of a book, the end of the book, the summary part is a summation of the whole book. So I thought, well, why don't I make the summation of the book the first chapter? And then I thought, if I'm really, really interested in teaching the world to listen, why don't I give that chapter away? As in, all you need to know about listening is this chapter.
Yes.
If you want to know the details and the research and all the mechanics behind it, then buy the book. But just read this chapter. That in itself could make a difference to more people being understanding how to listen better.
And therein, changing the world.
That's it. You know, never doubt what one person can do. And if it ends up being I change just one person, that's enough. So yeah, that's the next thing.
That's the next thing. So before we wrap up for today on our Get a Life moment, as I ask all of my guests, the big question, what is your top tip for life, Colin?
No surprise, it's going to be around listening. And the phrase I use is listen first, listen always, as in all ways, always, because people are dying to be heard. So that's my tip.
Thank you. It's been my absolute pleasure listening to you today, Colin. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And thank you, Lisa, for listening. I have felt heard. Thank you.
Thank you.